are you feeling today? I am Elriser from teamndl and welcome to Tenyi deck profile, going second. Before we begin, I'm going to say a few things. This deck is very fun, and it just really cool to play with. There are going to be a few changes to the channel. First one of them is because I'm going to start studying from Sunday. I'm probably going to drop a little bit number of videos in terms of be videos per week, so do be prepared for that. If I will be able to essentially have the same number of videos, cool. If not, quality over quantity is a lot better in my opinion. Secondly, we are going to give a little bit more layouts and few things and stuff for the channel because I do work on a few things to make the videos better, so hopefully you will like those, and let me know in the comments down below what do you think about that. And lastly, if you want to support me or the channel, a subscriber a day help the depression go away. So yeah, you can just do that. Give me a sub. Check all the other links of other awesome yugitubers. Some of them I'm shouting out. Some of them are part of the other channel that I'm in, which is the Coalition of Scrubs. So check the cards, check the description. There are a lot of really awesome people there. And the giveaway for the Eternity Code box is very ending soon. So if you want to take part of that, that's also fine. But without further ado, let's jump right into it. And this is just the go second build. It's really fun. Tenyis are just very cheap of a deck, and they're just pretty straightforward within what they do. So first off, we have the three particular Tenyi monsters, which are the three the baselines, which is 3 Ashuna, 3 Vashuna, and 3 Adahara, which is the Earth one. Hopefully I'm not butchering the names, I'm trying to read them correctly. All of the Tenyis essentially share the particular trait if they're they can special summon themselves if you control non-effect, no effect monsters. Wow, that's sometimes getting tongue twisters. But if you control no effect monsters, you will be able to special summon all of the Tenyi main deck monsters. And these particular 3, unlike the other 3, which we'll get to them, the level 4s, they have a particular effect that you can activate immediately if you control a non-effect monster, which is pretty nice. So in the case of Ashuna, is that you get to pretty much banish this card from the graveyard, special summon 1 Tenyi monster from your deck, except himself, and then if also you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except worm monsters. So do keep that in mind if you're trying to splash this deck into something else like Invoked, but just in pure it doesn't really matter, but that's really cool. Next up, you have Vashuna, which Vashuna is pretty much just bounce. Simple as that, compulse, that's what he does. And then Adahara allow you to target to banish him from the graveyard, from hand or graveyard, which all of them can do that, which is kind of crazy, but technically you want to do that in the graveyard. You get to target one of your banished war monsters and then recycle it to your hand, which is really cool. So you can recycle any of your war monsters, which is pretty nice. And that's it for the 3 basic ones, which these are the ones that you want to run at 3, because they're just good for combos and their effects are just useful immediately, which is pretty nice, which is really cool. Then we're going to move on to the others, which I run 2 copies of Shatana, I believe the name. Yep, and 2 copies of Nahara, and then 1 copy of Mafura. So these are your worst Tenyi monsters. Which are these are like your so-called, also I moved the mat a little bit, wow. Anyway, these are like your worst Tenyi monsters. They're still really good, they're still level 4s, and because of that you also run rank 4s in your extra deck, but these are just your additional useful cards. Mafura is your, if you're your effect monster, a non-effect monster is being targeted, you can negate the activation by banishing him. This one just making your non-effect monsters just being able, when they're in combat, or should I say battle, combat I just remember sometimes other games. Anyway, when they're in battle, you can make another monster, the monsters that battle with it lose 1500 attack, which is really cool. And this one allow you to, if your non-effect monsters will be destroyed, you're allowed to pretty much return one of them to your field, which is pretty nice. So these are your utility so-called Tenyis. You don't want 3 of these because these are not really that important, but they're still really good, and they work in the same way. Just their grave effect is a little bit more on the protection side, which is not bad. And I do like specifically the wind one because the wind one is just really cool. Next up, let's move on to the rest of the worm-related cards. First off, we have one Mare. The second one, we have one Generator, Boss of Ice, which I think Nithog the name is. And lastly, we also run one Phantom Sky Blaster to our like third and final like so-called normal summon. This is the only normal summon of the deck, by the way, if not counting another one, which we'll talk about. But these particular ones are just really useful going second. This one is essentially just your layer of protection going first. This is what he does. Sometimes you are forced going first, and this one is just like a good and easy boss monster to just summon and just have it on the field, and it's just kind of like a solemn effect, which is really cool. Mare is useful for a lot of combos, but not for all the combos as people think it is. And Phantom Sky Blaster is just really good because, you know, it just, your opponent control more monsters, you're getting more tokens, so it's pretty stupid. So I really like the card a lot. But that's pretty much does it for the monsters that are considered monsters. Now we'll move on to the hand traps, which you do want to run a very huge chunk out in this deck. Most of these hand traps or so-called traps are like acceptable ones that you can get pretty easily, which start with 2 Lava Golem, hand traps / kaijus, I guess, 2, or should I say 3 Ash Blossom, and then 2 DD Crow. These ones are really good because you don't use your normal summon. And another thing, which is really funny, you can use this guy to bounce this back and then have this in your hand for next turn. Ash Blossom is just really good generally, and then DD Crow is just good in this format. Now, I want to talk about a little bit about Lava Golem. Why do I run Lava Golem instead of standard Kaiju / Sphere Mode? Because I don't care about my normal summon, so I can run something like this. But why do I don't run Sphere Mode? Well, not every single board essentially plays 3 interruptions in case of monsters. Not every single board does that. This one, most of the time, guarantees that I'll have the ability to do such a thing. Not every deck does that. So, yeah. Do keep that in mind because of, like, it's 2, and, like, most of the time, like, if I tribute 2 and just have it in my opponent and then bounce it back and everything, they will probably just, like, either, like, negate the Vashuda and stuff like that, or just do something else. And the point is, like, you just use those, like, you can break the board, let's just say that. You can break the board if you just get 2 interruptions, like big interruptions. But you definitely cannot play the board if you're just getting rid of 1 interruption, because your opponent will have multiple interruptions, and, like I said, 3 interruptions is not always guaranteed. So that's my reason behind 2 copies of Lava Golem. I would say this, you could run 3 Lava Golem if you feel like it, which is a really cool idea as well. But I think like 2 kind of works for me, so that's pretty okay. So that pretty much does it for the monsters. Now we'll move on to the spells. First off, the best spell in the deck, 3 copies of Vessel, or should I say Vessel for the Dragon Circle. This card is absolutely busted. I don't know what is Konami but making like really busted card for some certain archetypes, which the rest of the archetype is not that great. But this card is just really good. Being able to essentially, like, you know, send a worm type from your deck to the graveyard, and then if you control an effect, you can also add a Tenyi, is really great. So you can just essentially, like, set up your combos by, like, sending a Mare, and then, for example, searching your Ashuna, and then just special summoning it. Also, another option is just being able to just, like, you know, send Generator, like, your Nithog, and then, like, revive it with Shaman, which is pretty cool. So I do like that a lot. And then for the field spell, I'm probably going to run in a way that's a little bit controversial, but I'm going to explain. 2 copies of Flawless Perfection of the Tenyi. Only 2. This is going a second deck. If it was going first, you want to run 3. But if you're going second, a 3rd copy always comes as a clog, and we do run 1 additional copy of Terraforming, and there is another card that essentially help us to search when we're going to go first. So I'm going to say that in advance, that will essentially allow us to activate it. And it's like, it's not really necessary to run multiple copies of this. I would say this, I would recommend to run the 3rd copy in the side, which we'll get to it. We do have a new side section, which you will see how the way I'm doing it, which I'm hoping you will enjoy that one as well. But yeah, the point is, you do use these so-called flawless only when you're going first, and where like you are in a grind game, and when you're just trying to OTK your opponent, you don't need more than 2. In fact, you don't need this one at all when you're going second, but I just do play these 2 in a terraforming and like a metaverse, which I will just say right now, not skill drain, metaverse. Skill drain is also, but I also revealed the trap. We'll talk about those in a second. But I do run those because essentially, like for the off chance I'm forced going first, because there are some decks that like going second. So that's the only reason. And like when I'm playing like 4 copies, so to speak, it's most of the time more than enough. But like I said, the 3rd copy is in the side deck, which I would recommend to run regardless. But that pretty much does it for that field spell stuff. Foolish Burial, Monster Reborn, and 1 copy Ward Legacy Succession, which could be a card that you can cut out if you want to run the 3rd Flawless. This is one of the cards that you can do that. These are cards that I think are really good. Foolish Burial, just another way to get to Mirror on the Thug. Monster Reborn is just a freaking Monster Reborn, and Legacy Succession is another Monster Reborn, and your deck is full of Link monsters, so it's pretty much not an issue, so yeah. Then for your hate cards, because you are going second deck, 2 copies of Cosmic Cyclone against Eldritch and Mystic Mine. And then 3 copies of a card that a lot of people are going to say expensive, but you do have another option, which could be Cold by the Grave. But 3 Dark Ruler No More. I do think Dark Ruler No More is absolutely mandatory in Go second decks right now, which I'm very happy that I was able to get my copies of this card. But Dark Ruler No More is absolutely ridiculous. This card is so good, so powerful. I love this card. It's so strong. It's just absolutely insane. Being able to just use this card is just really good. It's like it turned up a whole lot of decks. And because you are going a second deck, most of the time, like things like Ash Blossom and stuff like that doesn't really bother you because you're going second and like you're not going first. So like Cold by the Grave is not really that great. And essentially, I think like Cold by the Grave is going to be a little bit pushed up in August when we're going to get free tactical talents, because free tactical talents is a lot better. But you know what I mean? It's like this one. It's just good going second. You do run Cold by the Grave in the side if you want to, and this could be switched for Cold by the Grave or another hand trap if you feel like it and you don't have the budget for this kind of card. But I do think if you do have the card, play it. The card is excellent. It's absolutely insane, and I love Cold by the Dark Ruler No More. It's one of my favorite cards. And then for the traps, which I revealed both of them, Metaverse for the field spell if you're first going first, and Skill Drain also if you're first going first because you're playing a non-effect deck overall, which is really cool. Should get the alt art, but yeah, I only have the money for this one. That pretty much does it for the main deck. Now we'll move on to the extra deck. So first off, for the extra deck, 3 copies of Monk. Monk is absolutely mandatory at 3. You cannot run less than that. Monk is just absolutely insanely good for the deck. I can't believe I'm saying this on a normal monster, but yeah, that's how that works. This guy is just like your Link 1, you're going into it with your Tenyis, and that's how you go doing your plays. You have enough Tenyis, you're just going into it, and just because it's non-effect, you can just use all of your effects, which is pretty cool. Next up for your Link 2, 2 copies of Shaman. You could run 3, but 2 is most of the time what you need. Pretty much this one requires 2 worms, you discard a card, and then you target one of your worms in the graveyard, special summon it, and for the rest of the turn you cannot activate effects of monster special summon from the extra deck except Tenyi monsters. So do keep that in mind. So like, if you're using your Syncers and stuff like that, do keep that in mind that like this could also be a problem. However, it's also good going second, which is when attack is declared involving your face-up non-effect monster, you can target 1 card your opponent control and destroy it, which allowing you to get a particular card off the field, which sometimes you do want to do that with Shaman, so that's really nice. 1 copy of Berserker, your other Tenyi Link with, you know, no effect, which is pretty cool, and it's a beat stick. 1 copy of Master. Master is really easy to summon as well. It's require a Link monster, but it's not really that hard to do. It cannot be destroyed by battle by an effect monster, and if you control no other effect monsters, you can destroy effect monsters your opponent control up to the number of non-effect monsters you control in your graveyard. And that's really crazy. Because, like, it's not absolutely insane, but, like, let's say this, most of the time you're going to at least have this engraved, and you might be able to get, like, another one if you're playing this late game kind of a thing, so you'll be able to, like, pop a card or 2, and, like, for example, like I said, it's like, with these two, like for example, like you can have like an additional pop. It just works this way, which is really cool. And yeah, and it's just really nice. It's a nice popper. It's getting rid of cards. And lastly, we do have to proxy, like I said, a lot of times because of the quarantine and stuff like that. Once we're going to get not dual overload, but eternity codes for you guys at the end of the week, I'm probably going to make my order finally, but it's still going to take a while for me to arrive. The link for, obviously, if you can see on screen, this guy is pretty good. You only need one. Your combos most of the time just run into one, and you don't really need more than him. He's just a nice defender, big 28 guy that also summon a token, which is really cool, and protect stuff. It's pretty much what it does. It's just here to finish your combos. So yeah, that's for the Tenyi links, and the only non-Tenyi link I run is one link for Rikas for link to plays if you need to. And you need normals. And then that's it for your links. Now we'll move on to the synchros. We're on these three. Yazi, obvious worm. Baxia, also worm, obvious. This one's also pretty obvious because it just go to an archetype. All of these are just really good, self-explanatory. I don't think I need to explain these. Yazi can search Mirror Mirror. This one can just revive something and stuff like that. And this one can get rid of things, which is really cool. So yeah. And then we're running 3 Xyz, to be honest with you, which are also the same attribute of the so-called your level 4s, which are running 1 Tornado Dragon, 1 Abyss Dweller, and 1 number 60 Dugaris. For the off chance or the chances that we're going to get the level 4s, which could really work. So Abyss Dweller, obviously it's really good with your water, Shatana, I believe the name is. It's really good with that and just really good. Dugaris is just absolutely insane if I'm able to bring this. Is either draw to get to my combo pieces more, to bring a better board if I'm forced going first, or just help me OTK, which is really good. And then Tornado Dragon is just a nice additional blow-up card, and it's also a worm, so that works for the archetype fantastically. And that's pretty much does it for the deck. Yeah, we're going to jump right into the side deck section. Alright, so for the side deck section, not a whole lot much to say. There is some of the important cards, which are like the Cyclone, the third copy, Lava Golem, Flawless, and Crow, which I think are needed, as well as Cold by the Grave. But the rest of the card is technically up to you, and essentially every side deck is technically up to you, depending on your locals. I decide to go with 3 Super Poly, 3 Effect Veiler, and 2, targets for my Super Poly. But mostly, like I said, up to you. Anyway, hope you enjoy. See you all next time.